Bro, my big bro. Hey, if The Rock comes out, we have to pause this, but hey, my big bro. Let's go. Darkest Lost Media Volume 3. I'm here.
Desire Heavenly Father's spirit to be the teacher of that week. Often only to tell the truth, as in heaven. We tell the truth, Lord, Father, that we will learn obedience by the experience of others. That we don't want to fail.
Can you pause? On water. All right. I think he's next. We'll see, bro. If he's next, then we'll just pause. Hey, yo. Yeah, I would ever do Old Navy. I'm back. All right. I'm jumping on it, bro. Take one.
March 21st, 1997. History of the Prophet Joseph Smith. In 5th through 8th grade class. How anxious I am for Heavenly Father's Spirit to touch your minds and hearts. For what the Prophet Joseph Smith did was right.
Hailing from a tiny Utah town called Short Creek,
Can't trust Utah.
was a cult, the Fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints, or FLDS for short. Most
Chill.
recently run under the grasp of a man named Warren Jeffs, they operated completely under the radar for the better part of the past century. For years, Jeffs and his predecessors maintained strict control over their members, preaching the central idea that plural marriages were not only a God-given right, but were the only way for members to access the kingdom of heaven.
Why is it always like plural,
He
like
was known to
poly
call himself
relationships?
the prophet, the only member of the church who could talk to God.
Oh, I know.
And if God told him that you should marry someone, you wouldn't go against his will,
Okay.
would you? Wife after wife after wife, the prophet would arrange to wed, not only for the adult men inside the church, but most prominently for himself. Tens, hundreds of women
Say swear to God, these are all his wives.
were used as pawns, tickets that they believed would grant them eternal salvation.
Dude.
And as you'd expect, their ages were never considered.
Of course.
Inside the FLDS, hundreds of children were born through underage mothers, forced into arranged marriages with men upwards of 85 years of age. And all of them wholeheartedly believed that they were carrying out the will of God.
Okay. Yo, you're aura farming, big bro. I can't lie.
The story of the FLDS is one of the darkest I know, and they, too, have troves of media both destroyed and sealed away. We will be diving into the full story of the FLDS very soon. However, they're not fully the reason we're here tonight.
Yo. Hold on, bro. The reel's on. I can't troll right now.
In 2008, a game show premiered on Fox called The Moment of Truth. It involved contestants answering highly
I feel like I've
controversial
seen this.
and often abrasive questions in front of a live studio audience in exchange for an ever-growing grand prize. Prior to each episode, contestants would take a polygraph test to ensure the accuracy of their responses on stage. And
Now this
I'm
next,
sure
bro.
you can see how this could go downhill very quickly. Answer a highly personal, highly secret question correctly in front of the world, and the bag of cash dangling over your head grows ever more. Answer it wrong, however, and your affairs are exposed in front of thousands and are forever etched into broadcast history. In August of 2010, a contestant named Melanie Williams took the stage for the show's 9th episode of its 2nd season. Unlike those that competed before her, however, Melanie carried with her a dark,
Yo.
disturbing past.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
While living in a polygamous community, did you know of any underage girls who were married to adult men?
Yo, bro. Yo, I know the people, the community were in the crowd nervous as fuck. They're sweating.
Yeah.
That answer is true.
But nothing could stop her dramatic climb to the top.
How did they know? Yo, why did they continue?
As it turns out, Melanie Williams grew up inside the FLDS and witnessed firsthand the atrocities committed against the women and children within. To this day, Season 2,
Holy
Episode
chopped.
9, her debut is completely scrubbed from existence, leaving us with only an archived trailer hinting at the inner details she revealed. Interestingly, even though Episode 9 is considered lost, Melanie actually returned for Episode 10, one that has been found in full. Within it, she takes the stage for a final $500,000 question, the grand prize of this show, and something no contestant before her has ever been able to win.
So you gotta tell the truth and you
In
win
the beginning,
$1 million?
host Mark Wahlberg warns her of what she's about to be faced with. giving her an
Liv is gonna
opportunity
feel
to
it
opt out.
tonight. Let's go.
Hey, on God, that shit just started playing by itself. Hey, that's what's up.
However, after reading it and taking a moment to really let it sink in, she decides apprehensively that she's gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it for my dad. I'm gonna go for it.
You're going for it? Holy moly.
Are you okay?
It's a tough question, excuse me. But it's a tough question for me. It's a tough question.
Hey, the cop should have buzzed down the door.
Tearful and aware of what she's about to reveal, her father questions what could possibly be causing a reaction like this. She has, up to this point, aired out so much already. How much more really is there?
Yes?
Yeah, I'm going for it.
Okay. For $500,000, Melanie Williams. Question 21. Do you believe your father,
Dog.
as an adult, has ever had sexual relations with a minor?
Dog, what?
Yes.
Yo, we taking our money, we going
Answer
home.
Is true.
Isn't it fucked up to start clapping at that? Like start cheering?
The audience erupts.
Your
as
dad's a
Melanie
pedo,
sits,
yeah.
shocked at what she just unveiled to the world. Her father, equally stunned. And it all culminates in one of the strangest, most dystopian moments that I have ever seen on broadcast television.
Yo, what was
As the
2008
family
on?
embraces, Wahlberg questions her father about this illegal relationship, to which he completely downplays it.
All the time.
As part of that culture.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Let's hear what
Yeah.
John has feels about it.
Gosh.
I'm not sure when I did this, I knew what a minor was. That was a long time ago.
Okay.
Wife number 2 was 17.
What?
She had just gotten out of high school.
All right, bro. All right, bro.
In January of 2011, over 4 months after this episode aired, Melanie Williams took to her personal blog to clear up any speculation about her time on the show. Within a post made on January 7th, she claims that her father had actually lied that night, that the girl wasn't 17 like he claimed.
Dog.
In reality, she was 14, and her name was Joy. As far as it's known, her father has neither been investigated nor charged since this aired, and there's been no further updates from Melanie herself. Even so, this broadcast is one of the strangest that I have ever watched, and I wouldn't be surprised if it contributed to the Moment of Truth's cancellation. Regardless of whether Season 2, Episode 9 is ever found, Melanie Williams successfully exposed the illegal atrocities committed by one of the world's darkest cults in front of thousands. A cult that has done everything in its power to keep its depraved history a secret.
Yo, what is this video?
And a cult, the FLDS, who manipulated and abused women and children for over a century. All veiled under the will of God.
We'll return after these messages.
Damn, big bro, I wanted to. Hey, I wanted a deep dive on that cult, but.
Alright guys, before we continue,
the-
I'd like to tell you about tonight's video sponsor, Sailing.
Shout out Sailing, bro.
When you're at Landmark #1, you'll find who's
It's October 1999.
Texas.
Residents on the south end of Fort Worth, Texas, notice a certain smell lingering in the air. It's repugnant, nauseating, a pungent, pervasive odor of rot.
Fort Worth, hey y'all, be
The
careful.
stench is inescapable, rapidly enveloping parks, homes, and businesses. Something in the area is festering, and it's carrying an inescapable wave of what can only be described as the smell of deteriorating flesh. Disgusted and worried, residents in the area contact authorities in the hopes that someone, anyone, can figure out what the hell is going on. This odor has come up so quickly. So where in the world is it coming from?
just look for this green pea.
Check out this week's Green Price specials on all flavors of Jell-O frozen
Pudding
pudding pops.
Pops.
The sweetness of the grapes. At Ralph's, you expect this kind of quantity. One is
It's like my mother always told me, get what you want, but get it at Wallbounds.
I know how good my quality meats taste, but you have to see how good Wallbound's prices look.
Yo.
Resting at the corner of Hemphill and West Fogg Street in Fort Worth, Texas, sits an abandoned building. A grocery store called the Mexia Supermarket. Known to have been owned
Storm, you been
by a
here?
family from Laos, it served the surrounding neighborhood for years. But
No.
they were nowhere to be found. Their store is
This
rotting.
is too close.
Their home vacant. And it's like they up and left, leaving the only remnants of their existence: a neighborhood suffering from an inescapable smell, and a grocery store that's festering right under its own weight.
Inside Mexia.
Inside, rotting deli and meat discolored as bacteria consumed it. Produce began to wither and emit hazardous gas. Frozen goods and milk exploded due to an uncontrolled fermentation inside them. And the air inside, unbreathable, as the oxygen was completely depleted. As you'd expect, the building, by the time it was found, was in a state of complete disrepair, as maggots, roaches, rats, and
SmackDown
thousands
looks
of
weak.
flies
When
had
doesn't
nested
it look
within
weak?
its crevices. The scene? Unreal. And all of this was the product of a building left to decay for nearly 3 months.
Dwayne up next? Fuck, okay. This is not far from my house. Hey, y'all.
In the following days, the Fort Worth Health Department officially declared the site as a health hazard, sparking a massive cleanup operation. But as they assessed the building, they realized that it would prove far more complicated than initially imagined.
Wait, he's coming?
Because of the live rodents, millions of insects, and the buildup of hazardous gas, demolishing or burning the building down wasn't possible, as everything within it would simply migrate to the neighboring homes. And so, instead, a crew was hired to clean it by hand. Decked out in hazmat suits and oxygen tanks, they were tasked with bagging and removing the rotten food, disinfecting every surface inside, and fumigating the premises, all while navigating through the millions of insects surrounding them. Reportedly, the initial scene was so infested with flies that cleanup crews couldn't even see more than a few feet in front of them.
The store is still
cleanup
closed.
efforts took nearly a month to complete, and by December, the building stood completely empty, yet still carrying a lingering odor of rot. Years later, it was eventually bought out and rebranded as a store called Terry's. However, according to a review left on Google, nearly 14 years after Mexia, the place, even still, reportedly smelled like death. All of the footage you've seen so far has been taken from a 2010 History Channel documentary called Life After People. And while it gives us an inside look at the conditions there, it's merely a small piece of this story. As it turns out, tons of news coverage was taken, showcasing both the interior and exterior of the building before the cleanup operation began. However, as of now, it stands completely inaccessible. According to an online user named The Hookup, the news coverage of Mexia depicted a scene so repulsive that the windows appeared blackened due to the millions of roaches and flies covering them. I did have dreams about this one neighborhood in Fort Worth that was due to a news story at the time. A supermarket in this one low-income area of town just closed one day. The images on the news are what gave me bad dreams. Windows blackened by
Don't go to
millions
sleep,
of roaches,
Storm.
rats, and swarms. The smell had to be apocalyptic. 2-month-old fish, 2-month-old carrots, pork, thousands upon thousands of rat droppings.
Ew.
I was obsessed with the story, hence why I dreamt about it, being in there. It still freaks me out. To this day, this 1 minute of video is the only known footage in existence depicting the absolute nightmare left behind inside Mexia supermarket. And as we've seen, while evidence of other archives are out there, they have seemingly been buried
I just
in the
can't
void
respect that.
of broadcast history. With attention to it growing day by day, perhaps someday more footage about this will emerge. However, as of now, This is all we have, and it just might stay that way for years to come.
I should pull up. Yo, pull up and take a video inside. Tape 3. I die.
This is VH1.
Video Hits 1.
After waiting some considerable time to find a well-set-up gentleman, Megan was prepared to meet a man she could wind up spending the rest of her life with.
I'm nervous.
I feel like I've seen this.
August 2nd, 2009. A reality show airs on VH1 starring a woman named Megan Hauserman. It's called Megan Once a Millionaire, and it involves 18 suitors vying for her love by competing in challenges and trying to impress her with high-dollar dates. Out of every contestant on the show, a man named Ryan Jenkins had stood out to her. He was charming and witty, a trait so prevalent that the production team granted him the nickname Smooth Operator. Now, drama was, and still is, no stranger to reality TV, and Megan Once a Millionaire was no different. With such a bombastic cast of rich men vying for a woman by primarily flaunting their wealth, I'm sure you can see how this fell into the junk food category of shows out there. Now, that's all completely fine, and nothing about Megan Once a Millionaire was even that big of a deal. In fact, we wouldn't even be talking about this show today if it weren't for the fact that by the time this show was set to air its 4th episode, Ryan Jenkins' wife was dead.
Jeez.
August 15th. Police are investigating a dumpster in Buena Park, California. Reportedly, a foul smell is emanating from it, yet it isn't the kind you'd expect. This isn't the smell of trash. It's not an animal. It's something else. A few moments later, they dig out a densely packed suitcase, and upon opening it, staring skyward is the mutilated, mangled body of a blonde female. Her teeth are gone, her fingers severed, and her clothing nowhere to be found. Immediately, the police open a case. They realize that whoever did this went out of their way to sever any identifying feature from her body. However, curiously, one still remained. You see, this woman had breast implants, and given that these carry their own serial numbers, it gave authorities a potential lead for identification. Even still, however, this woman was unrecognizable, ultimately leaving 3 pivotal questions to linger. Who was this? Who did this? And how in the world did she end up here?
Hours later.
12 hours later, authorities receive a phone call. It's from Ryan Jenkins, and he's pleading. His wife, an LA model named Jasmine Fiore, had reportedly up and vanished. He claims that the previous night, the two arrived back at their home in Los Angeles before she left to run errands. However, since then, nothing. Over the next 48 hours, the breast implants were verified to belong to Jasmine Fiore, and as a result, her husband Ryan Jenkins had become a person of interest in her murder. Yet, once they began looking into his movements over the few days prior, they realized that Jasmine Fiore contrary to Ryan's testimony, had never arrived home. As it turns out, on the night of her death, the pair had gone to the LaBerge Hotel in Del Mar, California for a poker tournament, and on CCTV, the pair can be seen arriving, getting settled in, and leaving. Oddly, however, at 4:30 in the morning on August 15th, just hours before Jasmine's body was uncovered, they discover a panicked Ryan Jenkins, yet he's completely alone. Jasmine, wherever they went, never returned with him. She was never seen alive again. Immediately, Jenkins becomes their lead suspect. However, tracking him down proved to be difficult. He went on the run from their home in LA to Nevada, Nevada to Utah, Utah to Canada, and all of this was done in the span of just 2 days. Because of this, he was officially charged with the murder of Jasmine Fiore on August 20th. Yet, because he was evading arrest, he always seemed to be one step ahead. It wasn't until the morning of August 23rd when authorities would locate him at a motel called Thunderbird in Hope, Canada. However, their encounter wouldn't go at all as planned. That morning, Ryan Jenkins had never checked out. In fact, for the 3 days he was staying there, not a sound ever came from his room, and no one ever left.
Were they waiting for him?
In reality, he had taken his own life.
Oh.
And inside his room, he awaited, hanging from the motel coat rack.
Search for a reality show contestant charged with the first-degree killing of his ex-wife is finally over. Ryan Jenkins was found dead in a motel room in Canada yesterday, an apparent suicide. But officials say the investigation is far from over. Zuleika Nathu from the CBC.
Following his capture, VH1 had placed Megan Once a Millionaire on an indefinite hiatus, leaving episodes 4 to 6, the remainder of the season, never to air. After an internal investigation, it was found that Jenkins was charged with assault over 2 years prior to filming, something that should have restricted him from ever being allowed on TV. Even further, there were reportedly countless other contestants with charges as well, opening up the door to accusations that VH1 perhaps overlooked these in hopes of sowing drama and driving up ratings. For years, episodes 4 through 6 of Megan Once a Millionaire was unseen by anyone outside of the studio. However, in 2020, Megan herself released episodes 4 and 5 on her personal YouTube channel.
What the fuck?
Even still, though, the finale eludes the public, and given the controversy that took place, it's unlikely to ever be released. To this day, VH1 and the entire landscape of reality TV has felt the effects of this tragedy, yet nothing could ever compare to the grief the family of Jasmine Fiore underwent as they lost their loved one. According to Jasmine Fiore's mother, their relationship was never healthy. They were always fighting, always arguing about something, but never did she think that Ryan Jenkins would take the life of her daughter. Never did she think that he would leave her in the condition he did. It felt like a complete nightmare, yet it was painfully, agonizingly real. Megan Once a Millionaire, to this day, remains as an eerie look at the faces people put on for cameras. Yet once they're off and everyone inevitably returns home, we truly don't know any of them. Reality TV, they call it, even when it isn't reality at all.
No, that was the bar, big bro.
And last week's number 1 down to number 2, Underworld.
It's late at night, and a conversation is playing out between two online users, InExcess00 and No1093.
Does it say incest?
It's charged, inappropriate, a glance into the most depraved desires of the human psyche. This correspondence carries on for days. However, there's just one problem.
Hello?
Hey.
Hey, what are you doing?
Nothing. What are you doing?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Did you go get your other money?
Yes, I did.
Good for you.
Did you leave yet?
No.
You didn't leave yet?
No.
Are you going to come or not?
Yes, I shall.
Well, when are you going to come over?
Well, a little later.
A little later?
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, I guess.
This is me and J-Band's phone call. What he say?
You're silly.
You're the silly one.
InExcess00 in the real world is a 56-year-old man named Louis Conrad, and all throughout his chats and phone calls, he fully believes that he's conversing with a 13-year-old boy.
Oh, that's not me and J-Bands. No.
November 11th, 2004. Dateline NBC airs a show that you just might have heard of. It's called To Catch a Predator, and in collaboration with police and a watchdog group named Perverted Justice, they performed sting operations around the country, luring in and exposing predators on national television. In July of 2006, the production team commenced a multi-month sting operation in the town of Murphy, Texas, for a proposed two-part special in the show's second season. Among those caught were a 54-year-old math teacher named Stanley Kendall, a 52-year-old oil drilling consultant named Randall Wolford, and a 56-year-old district attorney for Kaufman County, Texas, named Louis Conrad. Aside from the surprising number of high-profile individuals all living a secret life, Conrad starkly stood out among the others. For years, he climbed the ranks of the Texas legal system, contributing to the prosecution of countless criminals. Because of this, he carried an extensive knowledge of Texas law, something that the police and production team knew they'd have to carefully navigate if they were successfully to convict this guy.
Oh no.
For his entire career, Conrad was well-liked and respected, they thought. So why in the world is he doing this?
Yo, look at that.
As the months carried on, the conversations between Louis Conrad and No1093 would only become more depraved. Louis would share explicit images, express a strong desire to meet, and would consistently bring up subjects that a 13-year-old has no business talking about online. But throughout all of this, little did he know that No1093 wasn't who he said he was.
The
entire persona was a setup, and the predator, Louis Conrad, had fallen straight into his trap.
I'm sending you chewy cheese fries.
According to Texas law, engaging in explicit conversation with a minor is a third-degree felony, a crime that Louis Conrad had, without a doubt, heavily partook in. Because of this, on November 5th, 2006, Tarrant County PD had obtained a search warrant and set out to his home to finally arrest him. When they arrived, the police had hoped that Conrad would recognize them and come out to talk. However, his behavior wasn't so straightforward.
Oh wait, I've
Through
probably
his
seen
window,
this.
they could see a TV playing and a computer running.
Oh, I've
yet
seen this before.
Lewis was nowhere to be seen. And so,
I remember
they
this house.
break in, clear out room after room. Yet once they make it to his main hallway, they discover him standing eerily still, seemingly awaiting them.
Yo.
Frozen in place, Lewis begins pleading, explaining that he's not gonna hurt anyone. However, before the police can react, he, out of nowhere, pulls out a handgun from behind his back, turns it on himself, and takes his own life.
Jeez.
As the camera crew stood outside, the sound of a loud crack had broken the stillness in the air, and for a brief moment, they were unaware of the scene awaiting them inside. No one expected Louis Conrad to do this. No one expected him to prey on an underage kid. No one expected any of this.
A man who has prosecuted
Okay, no.
criminals for more than 2 decades shot himself. We watched as an emergency medical team arrived and hoped they could somehow save him. But as Conrad is brought out on a stretcher, it's clear his condition is grave.
To this day, this incident is regarded as one of the darkest in To Catch a Predator's history.
Darkest
and because
lost
of
media.
litigation and their dwindling relationship with advertisers, the show was canceled the following year.
Damn.
While most aspects of this case, like the chat logs, the phone calls, and the aftermath are readily accessible online, there is one piece of media that has, to this day, never been released. Reportedly, there's an audio tape of Conrad's final words taken from police body cameras. However, for obvious reasons, it's remained sealed away. The Louis Conrad story is one of the most depraved situations that never should have happened. He
It
was a man
looks
who knew
huge.
better,
Okay.
a man who should have done better, a man who preyed on the most vulnerable subset of humanity. While the recording of his final moments may never see the light of day, his vile actions will forever be known, and his name immortalized as a monster that once lived among us.
Oh, Big Bro came with another tape. Let's go. 6 minutes. Wait, Silent Hill.
It's the early 2000s, and Silent Hill 2 haunts the world. Circuit City runs a special on camcorders, and over on CBS Channel 11, a bear enthusiast named Timothy Treadwell appears on Letterman. By every measure, Timothy Treadwell is a lifelong wildlife admirer. For the past 11 years, he's gone out of his way to live with bears native to Katmai National Park in Alaska, documenting his experiences wherever he can. Anytime this man was out in the wild, he had a camera on him and seemed to carry a remarkable lack of fear as he interacted with animals that could quite literally end his life at any moment. Throughout the 1990s, Treadwell was known to travel across the US, educating aspiring young adults on the intricacies of bears and their relationship with their natural environment. With this, he would share videos of his excursions, catalyzing an appreciation for the natural world to a new generation of young minds. These efforts would cause Treadwell to skyrocket in popularity, and by the early 2000s, he had effectively become a household name. From what it seemed, Treadwell's way of life was inherently dangerous, yet entirely rewarding.
Yeah, I've never heard
A
of this
dance
guy.
with the devil at every turn, yet it was something he was massively enamored by. He felt this sense of oneness, a connection to a species that humans, for as long as we've lived, have inherently feared. In October of 2003,
Holy chuzz.
Timothy Treadwell had convinced his girlfriend, Amy Huguenard, to venture out with him to Katmai National Park. Contrary to his other excursions, however, this one was markedly late in the year. You see, October's on the brink of hibernation season, a time in which bears are aggressively scavenging for food to get them through the winter. On top of this, there was a drought that plagued the area that year, drying up the food supply and causing an extra layer of aggression with the native wildlife. Effectively, the environment was incredibly tense. Competition ran high. Yet, even still, Timothy convinced Amy to trust him, as he was eager to continue his study of a species that he's carried a lifelong fascination with. It's been noted that Amy never wanted to go on this trip. In fact, she feared bears. Painfully so.
Just had to take her, bro.
It's the next day, and the forest is quiet. An air taxi pilot named Willie Fulton lands his plane near the couple's campsite to pick them up for their trip back home. Upon jumping out and looking around, however, Fulton quickly realizes that something isn't right. Timothy and Amy are nowhere to be seen, and all that greets him is a torn-up campsite and a bear. A very disgruntled bear. Confused by what he's witnessing and fearing for his safety, Fulton jumps back into his aircraft and calls in a report to the area's park rangers. And once they arrive, they shoot the bear dead, scour the surrounding area, and shockingly, uncover a scene completely unexpected. Throughout their campsite, the mutilated, half-eaten remains of Timothy and Amy are scattered across the ground. Their bodies have been violently torn apart. Timothy's head and arms are littered around the camp.
Good lord.
And Amy is haphazardly buried in a pile of dirt next to their tent. That night, Timothy Treadwell and Amy Huguenard lost their lives at the hand of a wild bear. And in the 85-year history of Katmai National Park, the two of them were the first to ever die this way. While investigating the campsite, the park rangers, surprisingly, came across a camera that recorded the attack. Reportedly, the lens cap was left on, leaving just 6 minutes of audio at the very end of their tape depicting their final moments. To this day, this audio has never been released. However, write-ups from those who had heard it firsthand paint a picture straight out of a nightmare. It supposedly went something like this. The tape begins with the sound of Timothy outside of their tent during a storm. A bear has wandered into their camp. However, before he can react, he's violently attacked.
Why is that recorded?
In immense distress, he begins to scream, pleading for Amy to come to his aid. And so she unzips the tent, heads outside, and commands for Timothy to play dead.
Yeah.
A few moments later, in believing Timothy to be deceased, the bear retreats into the dark, to which Amy in complete shock, rushes to Timothy's aid. Understandably, she's screaming and crying. Her boyfriend, a man who spent his entire life devoted to nature, has just been brutally attacked by the very thing he loved. But as it sinks in, the bear out of nowhere returns to Timothy, grabs his body, and drags him into the dark.
Angry ass bear. You know how mad he gotta be to walk back? Bro, he heard all that fucking crying, bro. Oh, he's like, oh shit, he's not really dead.
Since this incident, the one and only copy of this tape has been left in the possession of Treadwell's longtime friend, Jewel Palovak, who, to this day, has never listened to it. And aside from the authorities, the only other person who's known to have heard it is documentarian Werner Herzog. Just a few seconds in, however, he pulled his headphones off, instructed Jewel never to listen to it, and strongly urged her to destroy it.
I feel like I've seen this video.
As far as it's known,
I'm getting crazy.
Jewel Palovak remains in possession of this fabled tape and has vowed to both keep it sealed away and to never listen to it in her lifetime. With this, the final moments of Treadwell and Huguenard's lives are shrouded in a cloud of uncertainty, leaving the world around them to eternally speculate about it. This tape, much like with Christine Chubbuck, is one of the darkest, most haunting cases of lost media that I truly believe we will never get our hands on. It's a tragedy that never should have happened. A freak incident deep in the woods. 6 minutes of audio depicting one of the most gruesome ways to die that we may never hear in our lifetime.
Big bro. Oh, big bro, you know how to make a fucking video. Wait, what's the rest here?
So I am inside Mexia.
Yo.
Mexia, and
this dead ass storm.
I don't smell it. Well, sort of. Okay, so update. I didn't really smell anything. They cleaned it up pretty well. Maybe my smell just sucks. I don't know, but it smells like a normal store to me. I had to do it. Had to do a smell test. Anyway, I'm gonna go home now and finish this video because, dude, I've been teasing this for way too damn long. But
anyway. Hey, great vids, man.